Florida ranks first in the country for bicycle and pedestrian fatalities per capita, according to reports from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Here to discuss why our roadways are so dangerous and what could be done to make them safer is Mike Lachey, Executive Director of Florida Walks and Bikes. And welcome to our show.
Thank you very much.
It's good to have you here. This is quite a statistic. Why does Florida lead the nation in this?
Well, two reasons. One, Florida was developed in the age of the automobile. Drive down to Florida, come to motels, and we're going to build developments way out in the country, and you can drive to where you work, and you can drive to where you shop. Florida is an extreme case of being automobile dependent. But the second reason for all these is more disappointing, one we can address now, and we can address the automobile dependency as well, but a more immediate cause is we've had a failure in leadership on the part of governors in the state and FDOT.
In what way? What needs to happen in that arena to make it better?
Well, from 1978 to 1986, Governor Graham was good. He changed Florida for the better. He made bicycling and pedestrian issues a priority. He brought in good people, he brought in good task groups, and they made big changes, and they did a good job. But since 1986, the effort has fizzled. Governors since then, they have not made this a priority, which sends a signal to state workers. Hey, your job isn't dependent upon this. Two, any kind of traffic improvement, any kind of traffic mode like bicycling or trucking or anything like that requires the 3 E's of engineering, education, and enforcement, which means that someone has to coordinate all the state departments. That coordination has not been happening.
Mm-hmm. I see sidewalks and bike paths everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that a safe mode of transportation that way?
Well, it depends. I mean, there are safe sidewalks, there are unsafe sidewalks. There are safe bike lanes, there are bike lanes that will suddenly empty you out into a seven-lane urban artery. So anything can be done well or poorly.
Driver education is important.
Well, driver education, and that's a very good point. In the late 80s, I lobbied through one of the finest child traffic safety education programs in the country. The idea was it would have an immediate impact on children. They'd walk and they'd bike safely in traffic, but they'd also grow up to be safe drivers. And since then, we have the program, we provide free training, we provide free materials, free equipment to the school districts, but only 4 out of 69 school districts in the state have adopted this program. So also there's enforcement. I mean, I see cyclists all the time running red stop signs and red lights and riding without lights at night, and they're not enforced. But then pedestrians have the right to cross at intersections, and their rights aren't enforced. You have the right to cross at any unsignalized intersection, and cars must stop for you. But I dare you to exercise that right, or
drivers need to be more cautious. That's the #1 thing, right?
Well, drivers should be more cautious. Drivers should look out. But I think there's also an equal onus on pedestrians and bicyclists to behave properly.
They need to be educated?
They need to be educated, they certainly do, and they need to be enforced upon. Enforcement doesn't happen. I've talked many times to police agencies and sheriff's departments, and they'll say, yeah, we agree on this, but then you hear the old line, well, we've got more important things to do. We've got burglaries, and we've got drug dealing, and that kind of thing.
Is that your #1 priority? What's the #1 priority to make it safer on the roads for cyclists and pedestrians?
Well, our #1 priority, I think, for this upcoming year, we got 5 changes in the legislature last year, but one of my #1 priorities is to see that more children are trained in how to behave safely in traffic. Now, because I think that has the real long-term benefit. But of course, there are a number of other things too. I mean, we can take a look at FDOT, and FDOT, for instance, FDOT builds these 7-lane arteries, which are death for bicyclists and walkers. FDOT doesn't provide the right staff.
Right.
You know, they don't search.
Lots of great suggestions. This hour's newsmaker Mike Lachey discussing bicycle safety on Florida's roadways. I'm Spiro Canton. Thank you for joining us.